Need a little luxury in your life? That's why I recently treated myself to a staycation at the Inn at 500 Capital. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway, a special celebration, or just a break from routine, you're going to love their Four Diamond Boutique experience with gorgeous rooms, penthouses, and suites right in the heart of downtown Boise. You'll be greeted with a complimentary drink on arrival, have access to free shuttle service, and even your pet is welcome. And here's an insider tip: book more than one night and save with their weekend escape rate. Book your stay now at inat500.com. Today on CityCast Boise. Idaho has dominated the news cycle this week, with a woman being dragged out of a Coeur d'Alene town hall, raising major questions about free speech, while a Boise CEO resigned after performing a Nazi salute at a company event. And if you're looking to unwind, we recommend a classic arcade and a cozy new wine bar. It's Friday, February 28th. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. Happy Friday, everyone. Joining me today is local comedian and comedy producer Brittany Hargis. Thanks so much for being here today, Brittany.
Thanks for having me, Lindsay.
And this is a fun week. This is a special week because Idaho made national and even international news this week. Never for good things, never for good things, but for something particularly heinous this week. And that was that up in Coeur d'Alene, up in Kootenai County, there was a town hall. And a woman was forcibly removed from her seat at that town hall, dragged out of the meeting, and it has raised some pretty major First and Fourth Amendment concerns. The public has responded really strongly to it. So, Brittany, what was your response when you saw this footage?
Well, first of all, I had to grasp my pearls at the headline of Idaho making news for poor treatment of women. That is just so not like us.
Very unusual.
All the sarcasm. Man, I watched the video and I was horrified. I had to double check what type of meeting this was in the first place, because the way that it went down, it really appeared to have been the treatment you would expect when someone storms a Capitol or is removed from a space that they were not allowed to be in. It looked like there was some sort of trespassing that had to have been involved, which is what it looked like. But going back, it was straight up a town hall meeting, a meeting that is set up and the public is invited to share their opinions. It is wanted. And this woman was not alone in sharing her opinions.
No, not at all. And the school district up in Coeur d'Alene has come out and publicly stated that this was a public meeting. It was billed as a public meeting in one of their schools in a public place, and it was a town hall. And if you watch any of the footage, there were people cheering, there were people booing. There was a man who stood up and pointed at the stage and yelled at them and called them assholes. It was very heated. There were a lot of feelings. But this one particular woman, Teresa Borenpol, was the one who was dragged out of the meeting by people in plain clothes. And so it really stirred up a lot of First Amendment and Fourth Amendment questions about this meeting and about how she was treated.
Absolutely. And again, town hall meetings, as the great Leslie Knope would say of Parks and Recreation, we are encouraged to care very loudly at these meetings. It is not a place where if an unpopular opinion is shared that you remove that person. And for the record, Teresa was advocating for opinions that were shared by many that were there.
Oh, yeah. She was talking about how this was for Idaho legislators, our state legislators. And so they were talking about things like Medicaid repeal and our state's abortion bans. And she and people around her were sharing opinions about those that many people in the state have. And then Sheriff Norris came over. You can see in video, he was pulling on her arms. He was telling her that she needed to leave. At one point, he said something about pepper spraying.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, these guys in black jackets show up and Teresa
per his request, per the sheriff's request. Yes.
And they're pulling on Teresa. They're pulling her out of her seat. And she keeps asking, who are you? Who are these guys? Asking if they're sheriff's deputies. Who are they? And never gets an answer. And I would be horrified. I can't even imagine what I would be thinking if two randos in black jackets are just hauling me out of a public meeting and nobody knows who they are.
Terrifying. And like, as a woman being like straight up like handled like that in the first place, like that is a terrifying thing to be outnumbered, to be, I mean, like it's a really scary feeling to have, and then to have nobody really intervening. Like everyone, for I think understandable reasons, watched it happen. Thank goodness there were recordings that were made. I think that's one of the most powerful things that we can do as citizens is when we're seeing what some might see as excessive force, especially by those that don't have the authority to do so, or at least it's not clear that they have the authority to do so. One of the most powerful things you can do as a citizen is to record that. That is why we are even able to have this discussion right now. If there had not been a video made, I really feel even more fear for Teresa regarding what the recourse could have even been.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do want to clarify because there has been more video footage that's come up. I actually posted it on my socials that there was one gentleman, and I just found out his name yesterday. It was Greg Johnson. He tried to step in, and some of these men in black jackets pushed him away, took him out in the hall, and zip tied him and had him against a wall. And so there were people trying to intervene, but they were also forcibly removed from the meeting. Yeah, that footage didn't make the initial, news feed, but I do think that's important that there were other people who were being removed, being pushed, being moved away from Teresa while she was being pulled from her seat. And like this private security group really kind of came in, zeroed in on her, and then kept everyone away from intervening, which again, just adds to that fear factor. Do you think, I'm curious what you think, after seeing what happened to Teresa, do you think this will change how people show up at town halls? Do you think this will change how people choose to show up to protest? Like, do you think that this will have a chilling effect?
I think we're going to start seeing things that traditionally had been just public forums where people would at most share opinions, and maybe you would have someone who is a little bit more outspoken. I think we're going to start seeing more intense town halls. I think you're going to see louder positions on both sides, or all sides, I should say. I really do wonder what this is going to mean for security as well. Is it normal for them to have hired security for this as well?
That's a really good question. So there was an article that just came out from the CDA Press on early Thursday morning that the question of the security arrangements are still very unclear.
Right.
So there were initial reports that the KCRCC, the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee, had hired this private security firm, Lear Security. That story has changed depending on different people being asked about it within the KCRCC. The school district has indicated that they were told there would be private security, and this private security group had actually toured the school days before the town hall with people from the KCRCC. So, but now that's being walked back that maybe the KCRCC didn't know who security was supposed to be. It is very unclear at this point, with the different stories being reported, who knew what and who was hired to do what, which I think is very concerning. If there's private security, I want people to be very clear about who hired them, why they're there, and what kind of powers they have when they're at these public meetings.
Yeah. And again, for a party that right now is really advocating for transparency and clear budgeting and like all of these things, you would think that that would be one of the very first things kind of thrown out there of, we hired this company, it was for this much, and it was for this purpose. And that's not happening even on a local level, which makes me fear this is going to be a regular and ongoing thing that we're going to be up against. You're not going to know who is running security. You're not going to know if the person sitting next to you is going to, I mean, if the understood thing that we can do at a town hall meeting is if you voice your opinion, you don't get to know if the person next to you is going to remove you from that setting because they don't want to hear it. And they have this unspoken authority to do so by the sheriff or the people in charge of that meeting.
I'm really curious what you think. Did you see there was an NBC article that House Republicans, so this was a state legislature town hall, but House Republicans have hit the brakes on town halls after blowback. And do you think Teresa's story and kind of what all of the energy and feelings surrounding town halls lately are maybe going to lead to a situation where officials just don't have them?
I think it would be in their best interest if it's too difficult to follow through on transparency and accountability, then why not just remove that from the equation? I think it would be in their best interest if change is really not something that they were committed to in the first place. If transparency was not actually on the table at all, then why create an environment that allows them to be held accountable to that?
And I do want to say, with everything that happened, the shocking video, really the back and forth, very confusing stories, there was a GoFundMe set up for Teresa Borenpol that, as of this recording, has raised over $313,000. Like, that's how much Teresa's story spoke to people. There are donations coming in from all across the world because of what people saw on that video.
Yeah, I think for a good reason, right? Like, I mean, Teresa has been accused of thus far assaulting an officer.
There was battery charges. They were dropped.
They were dropped.
But yes, there will definitely, it would probably be wise to have legal counsel.
Right. And on top of that, there's accountability that has to happen. Like, if it's not going to be at the level of holding elected officials accountable for things not happening when they say it's going to happen, if it's not anything else, it's that there has to be accountability for this person was not allowed to exercise their freedom of speech in a position in which that should have been encouraged completely every step of the way. And that was entirely infringed upon, in my opinion.
This episode is brought to you by Peacock. The new Peacock original documentary, Matthew Perry, A Hollywood Tragedy, dives deep into the beloved actor's rise to fame and his tragic death. 5 people, including Perry's personal assistant, 2 medical doctors, and an alleged Hollywood drug dealer known as the Ketamine Queen, were charged with conspiracy to illegally provide Perry with the ketamine. Explore the details of the case in this heartbreaking special, streaming now only on Peacock.
Faraday presenta Ojos con Alergia y Picazón contra el jardinero. Y el ganador es Faraday Extra Fuerte. Para aliviar la picazón de los ojos por alergia, actúa más rápido y supera a Claritin y Flonase aún a las 24 horas. Faraday, adelante.
Well, Brittany, that is not the only story where Idaho has made national news this week, unfortunately. No, we have a whole other incident that happened with the CEO of ESI, where he gave what appears to me to be a Sieg Heil Nazi salute on stage at a company event in Boise. I'm going to ask you a similar question. What were your thoughts when you saw that video?
Honestly, I just let out a deep sigh and was just like, of course that's happening here. I would love so much to just have one week that we're not in the news. It's getting embarrassing at this point. But ESI, I just want to double check this. ESI, isn't that the same company that's being sued by the Department of Justice for their use of PPP funds? Or I should say maybe misuse, perhaps?
Yes. Yeah. There was an article in Boise Dev in November that allegedly they used their PPP loans for a private jet.
Oh, okay. So
they have come out and said that those are false claims, but yes, that is the same company. And now on stage at a company event, the CEO says that he was mimicking Elon as a commentary on our current political climate. And so he did that salute twice in a row. It wasn't just once, it was twice. Not an
oopsie.
Not like a falling, not like slipping and falling. Like it was, if you watch the video, it was, done with deliberation. And the first apology was that, it was just a political commentary, that it was a joke that people were taking out of context and they didn't understand.
Well, wait a minute. Maybe I read something else, but didn't he do something that was like, hate me for being a father, hate me for being a successful businessman, but at least be honest why you hate me? What apology am I mixing up?
That was apology like 1.5. That was from an interview he did. Yeah, where he said that people were hating him for being a Christian and a patriot. And I was like, no, people are not outraged about those things. People are outraged about the salutes that you throw on stage.
Gosh. I guess for anyone listening, if you were unsure as to whether or not you should be doing that hand motion, like even if you see a billionaire doing it, actually probably more than ever, if you see a billionaire doing something, probably don't do that. If you're finding yourself questioning, let this serve as your answer. Like, don't. How about don't?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, and so then there was another apology on Monday of this week. This was apology 2.0.
And that one was clearly done by professionals.
Oh, that was crisis PR. Absolutely. And then that same day, the CEO, Tom Hill, announced that he was resigning. So on Monday, he resigned. Brittany, I want to know what you think about this. Do you feel like that was enough? Do you feel like that was enough of an apology for what he did?
I'm not someone that's like going to ever really feel comfortable being someone who represents justice, right? Like I'm not that person. But what I can say is that when you choose something, especially in the spirit of comedy, this is someone who is saying, I was making a joke. When you decide that you actually don't stand by that joke anymore, you're going to have to back that up. And so, in my opinion, if this was done truly from a comedy perspective, he's going to have some serious life lessons to have to, he's going to have to be accountable in some way. Losing his position is, I think, a start. My concern is that stepping down as CEO doesn't inherently mean this person lost their job. This is a part owner. This is someone who's still very much entrenched in the business and sister companies. I do have to wonder whether or not there is actually accountability or if this was a piece of paper that was delivered to the press. So I don't know. I personally have made jokes that are inappropriate. I've never done anything that's racist, but I just have to wonder if accountability is really out there at this point for Tom.
And do you think, given Idaho's history with neo-Nazis, given what has happened with Elon and then with these salutes at CPAC, do you think that the reaction from people in Boise indicates that doing this salute is still not normalized here and could still be career ending?
I hope so. I actually have a lot of hope that, if this is how we can continue to handle it, and we say that not only is this not acceptable, but we will continue to hound until we see even the semblance of accountability offered for this person. I think that's important. I'm actually really proud of the pressure that the public was able to put on this action.
This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injury is an additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
TaxAct knows small business owners can sometimes use a little help with their taxes. That's why TaxAct has Expert Assist, a team of live tax experts ready to answer any questions you may have. Think of them as your own personal sidekick. Not like one of those funny talking animal sidekicks, more like the super smart nerding out on tax code and business casual attire sidekick, but just as helpful and lovable. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
Okay, that was a lot of heavy and upsetting news.
Yeah.
Man, Idaho really not looking so good right now in the news. So let's jump into picks of the week.
Should we do a deep sigh first?
Maybe that was no. We might like a hard reset.
Is it really pick of the week or is it like cope of the week? What's your cope of the week?
Yeah, maybe
Lindsay?
disassociation of the week. Are we to that point?
Yes.
Disassociation of the week. Okay, my disassociation pick of the week was Realms Arcade in Boise. And
yeah.
I was recommended that by somebody else we had on the show, Charlie Hunt, several weeks ago. And we finally got a chance to take the kids. It's this vintage arcade. You pay $10 a person to get in. And then you can play all the games you want for as long as you want until they close. Yeah. So it was, we definitely got our money's worth. And they have some really fun, unique games, lots of like Japanese games that I'd never played before. And it's all like in Japanese, but you kind of, you kind of know what's happening. You can figure it out.
Okay.
And they were really fun. Those were some of our family's favorites. They had lots of pinball machines, which were really fun to play with the kids. And then, okay, this was my favorite. They had a old school first edition N64. And so I played with my kids. I absolutely destroyed them in Mario Kart.
Oh, good.
Both the races and the battles. They didn't even know how to do the battles. They didn't see it coming. It was,
It's wrong to hit your kids, but you should definitely kick their ass in Mario Kart. I think that's appropriate.
Yeah, I was like, they're teenagers. I'm not pulling punches. Like,
No.
I don't know, get better, practice. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just muscle memory. Anyway, it was so much fun. And they seriously thought, because they, my kids game. So they thought they were going to take me, and they were quite surprised that Mom could absolutely whoop all of them in Mario Kart every time.
That's a parenting power move. Yes, do that more often.
It was. It felt really good because they beat me at games all the time. I'm not great at the Xbox, but N64, I'll get you every time. So I highly recommend it. It was really fun. We played for hours. All of my kids played different games, had a great time, and it was just really, really fun. And I felt like an affordable, fun way to spend an afternoon.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. It was recommended to me, and now I've got to pass that on because it was worth the hype. So, Brittany, I want to know, what is your disassociation pick of the week?
Well, I apparently handle my stress with alcohol. So I took it upon myself to check out the new wine tasting room in the North End.
What's it called?
Clunt Williams wine room, I think. It's in that cute little blue house over just on 13th Street. Have you seen that one? It'd been for lease for a long time, but
yes,
it's so cute.
So cute.
It's so cute. They have a whole line of wines. I have taken it upon myself, Lindsay, to taste every single one of them.
You're not a quitter.
I'm not a quitter. I'm here. I equal opportunity for every wine. But I do have to give a quick shout out to their Alexis wine. I bought a bottle of that. And Steven at the wine bar is super helpful. He'll help you find a really good one. And it's just like a cute little experience. The weather's nice. They have some really nice seating outside as well. But if you're wanting to go for a walk, have a little bit of a baby wine buzz, I would definitely recommend checking that out. I'm literally going back this weekend. It was a very good time.
That sounds great. Do they do... I'm assuming that you can get little like flights or tastings.
Yeah, they're very big on like tastings. They also have a pretty fantastic cheese selection. It's going to sound weird, but I tried the coconut cheese. It was so good. Coconut cheese and a little bit of their Alexis red blend was amazing.
Okay, is coconut cheese like cheese made of like coconut
No.
milk? Or is it like cheese with coconut in it?
That's a valid North End question. I appreciate that. No, this is real cheese, and then there's the essence of coconut in it.
Okay. No, I was going to say, on the North End, you never can quite be sure.
You never know.
Like,
absolutely.
Is that cheese from a coconut? I don't know.
Sustainably sourced coconut cheese.
Well, that sounds delicious. So, and I was going to say, that's not too far from Realms. So you could play the video games, get the kids home, and go have a little wine.
Absolutely. And it's actually a family-friendly establishment. Like, the kids could totally actually come in. There's seating for everybody. They actually have lots of food and snacks. It's actually somewhere that they want families to come and hang out to.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm definitely going to have to check that out. That sounds like a fantastic disassociation pick of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Brittany, these were heavy topics, lots of material to cover. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come break it down and discuss all of the wildness that has been Idaho this week.
Just suffering through it with you, Lindsay. This is fun.
And one more thing before you go. Governor Brad Little signed House Bill 93 on Thursday morning, setting aside $50 million as grants for students who don't attend public schools. Supporters of this bill say that it will level the playing field for children from different socioeconomic backgrounds, as reported by the Idaho Statesman. But the Idaho Democratic Caucus released a statement saying that this bill siphons public dollars to subsidize private school tuition for the wealthy. This bill has received support from President Donald Trump. That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. The show is produced by Evelyn Avitia, Frankie Barnhill, Selena C.A. Reynolds, and me, Lindsay Van Allen. Blake Hunter writes our Hey Boise newsletter, and our music is by Up Is The Down Is The. If you enjoyed our show today, leave us a review. It helps other people find us. We'll be back on Monday with a look at the local short-term rental market. See you then.